Welcome to the Emajin Golf Podcast Beyond the 19th. I'm your host, Raj Narayan, and today I have the pleasure of catching up with Ting Wang, CEO and co-founder of Coinstash, one of the leading cryptocurrency exchanges in Australia. And Ting shares his early journey, how he started the business, and some amazing insights on how to get into alternative investments. Hope you enjoy. Ting, you've just recently joined the Imagine community. It's great to have you and Coinstash on board. And look, it's amazing to have you on the podcast and hear more about your journey and your story. So, welcome to our podcast.
Yeah, thanks for having me.
Fantastic. Look, Ting, I just thought, let's start from the very beginning. Tell us a bit more about your background, where you come from, and your early days, whether it be as a child or in business.
Yeah, I guess as a child, I grew up in China, so
Mm-hmm.
Beijing. So I was at the very, capital of China. I moved
Yes.
to Australia when I was in high school, so
Mm-hmm.
2003.
Mm-hmm.
I spent a good part of my life here in Australia, always in Brisbane. So I've always, based my career and also my studies in Brisbane. My
The
prof-
sunny state, the sunshine
the
state.
sunny state, yeah. The
That's
weather
right.
the weather is normally pretty good, but not recently,
Yes, that's right. Yeah, yeah.
obviously. But my professional background is actually in law and finance.
Mm-hmm.
So I did a double degree back at uni, and then my first job out of uni was in KPMG, so
Oh, very
professional
nice.
services.
So we've got a few things in common, Ting. I come from India. So my background, I studied law in
Mhm,
India and I came here to go to uni actually. So
mhm.
I'm sure it was a few years before you. But also have spent a bit of a stint in Brisbane. I used
Okay.
to live in the Hamilton Ascot area
Yeah.
there and loved Brisbane. I think it's amazing, great golf courses and amazing golf there as well.
Mhm.
Yes, tell us a bit more. So you did fine, and I also did finance, and I did finance and economics. Very
Very
similar,
nice.
very
Yeah.
very similar, and worked at Deloitte.
Oh, you work at Deloitte. Okay. A rival Big Four firm. Yeah.
Exactly. Yeah,
Mhm.
started my career at Deloitte, so we've got a lot of commonalities there. So tell me a bit more. So what did you do at KPMG? Accounting or?
Yeah, I was doing tax, so I was very
Mm,
specialized. I was not only was I in tax, I was actually in a very specialized area of tax, which is indirect tax. So
okay.
you probably know all about it, but
Mm-hmm.
GST, mostly GST and stamp duty.
Ah, fantastic. I
Mhm,
mean, look, I did audit actually at Deloitte, so I did
mhm,
audit accounting, did a tax as well, but yes, more general. But yeah, I know all about it, indirect taxes.
mhm.
What made you decide to specialize in just that?
I guess because I also had a background in law, so I think straight out of uni, you probably didn't think about too much. You're like, okay, I just want to work for a
One of
reputable
the
firm,
mm-hmm.
and then yeah, I just got in as a fresh graduate. So didn't really think too much about it. But if I look backwards, I'm actually quite happy that I landed my first job at KPMG because that gives you, I guess, the professional training. It sets you up very well for the rest of your career.
Mm-hmm.
So following KPMG, I actually did about 2 years at a global US listed company. It's called
Okay.
Global Payments.
Mm-hmm.
So it's a fintech company based in also, they have a subsidiary in Brisbane. So I was
Okay.
working in there as a financial analyst for 2 years
Mm-hmm.
before I started my crypto journey. So
Oh,
that was
fantastic.
back in 2017.
Oh, super. We'll come back to the crypto journey. We'll talk a bit more about that,
Mhm.
especially in the current climate. Everybody, it's much in the, there's a lot of talk. So we'd love to hear your thoughts as well, not only about your business, but where you think the whole industry is headed. But going back to your, accounting days and the early days, I mean, I do agree with you. It is so important where your first role is out of uni,
Mhm.
because I think it determines your career path of where you go to.
Yep.
And working in a large firm or even a small firm, it doesn't matter the firm, but I always think working for people who you can learn from and gain some skills and a strong foundation. I believe it really sets you up for the rest of your career.
Yeah, it definitely does. I
Yeah.
still remember, even when I was at KPMG, I think one of my first tasks, maybe this is about 6 months into my job, one of
Mhm.
my first tasks is actually to write about Bitcoin. So believe it or not, I
It was
was,
meant to be, Ting. It
it
was
was
meant
meant
to
to
be.
be,
Yeah,
yeah.
yeah.
I still remember as if it was yesterday, that was back in 2013 when I first started, like maybe, like I said, six months in, and then Bitcoin was actually had its first like mini bull run back then.
Yes, that's right. Hmm.
So we actually had one of our GST partner actually asked me, hey, can you do some research to write about the GST treatment of Bitcoin, which
Hmm.
is obviously a very new thing back then. So
What
I,
is the? I'll have to learn more about that. What is the GST treatment of Bitcoin? It's
I, th-
interesting.
I think back then everything just considered as a taxable supply, so there wasn't an exemption just yet. But I think it must be back in about 2017, 2018 when the ATO first released, I guess it was a ruling to say that uh, Bitcoin is basically not it's not subject to GST. It's an input tax supply. But don't hold me on that. It's been a while since I've done indirect taxes. Yeah.
Yeah, yeah,
Mhm.
fantastic. So
Yeah.
Bitcoin doesn't have to, you don't have to have GST to those invoices.
No, you
Very
don't.
good, very
Mhm.
good. Um, so yeah, so you're writing the paper on Bitcoin, and then tell me more about how you ended up starting your Bitcoin journey.
Yeah. So when I first looked at it, I think it was actually back in 2015. So that's when I
Yes.
first
Mm-hmm.
read the Satoshi's white paper. So the white paper is actually about it's about only 9 pages long, so it's not as scary as what people make out to be. And it's actually very easy. It's very understandable, believe it or not. It's not too much of a computer science or cryptography jargons in those white papers. Uh, but if you actually want to dig deeper, there's a lot further that you can go. So you can go
Okay.
on every single, I guess, paragraph of the white paper. There's actually a big rabbit hole.
Where you can,
To,
yeah, there's more. You can drill down and then, yeah, it's like your typical research papers. Back in the day, I started my banking career. I was a credit analyst,
Mhm.
and you write these reports and so forth. But each paragraph you can drill down, and write another whole paper about each paragraph, each topic.
That's right. That's right. Yeah. So actually, like for me, when I first read it, I think it clicked for me, but I
Yes.
didn't really think about too much back in 2015 because I knew of it, but I knew it was a thing, but I was just too busy to focus on life, right?
Mm-hmm.
But the time when I first looked at it very seriously, it was back in 2017,
Okay.
and the reason that drives that is because there was actually a price difference, what I call an arbitrage opportunity between the Bitcoin prices between China and Australia.
Mm-hmm.
And obviously, given my Chinese background, I know what's happening because I can see what the prices
Yeah.
are
Mm-hmm.
in Chinese yuan versus what it is in Australian dollars. And using my connections, I was able to find the local broker. When I say local broker, like a local Chinese broker, purchase the
In
Bitcoin over
China,
there
you mean?
in China.
And then
Yeah,
you purchase. Okay.
yeah. So I purchased the Bitcoin in China, and then
Mm-hmm.
I can send it to Australia, and then I can sell it. Or sometimes I think the profit can be up to 15%. So
Mm-hmm.
it's quite
That's
considerable.
quite lucrative to have that arbitrage opportunity.
Yeah, and
You
those are
think that like gold, it'll have a global price, don't you think?
that's right, that's right.
Yeah, one would assume that's what it has. It's a daily rate, and that's what it is
Yeah,
globally.
I think something like that is very unthinkable because you come from a finance background
Background, yeah.
yourself, so like even to capture opportunities that's like 5 bips is very difficult in traditional markets.
Absolutely. And if there
Mm,
was, it'll get closed out very quickly, usually by the end of play that day.
That's
It's
right.
really, it's quite big to have a 15%, markup arbitrage opportunity.
That's right. Yeah, I
Yes.
think. But looking back on it, I think the lesson learned is in any adolescent, or I think back then it wasn't even adolescent; it was in very early stages.
Hmm.
Bitcoin was like a baby back then. So in those stages, in the asset class that's not widely traded, opportunities like this do exist, and they don't get closed out for extended period of time. So I remember for this opportunity in particular, it lasted for at least 6 months, at least.
6 months. Yeah.
Yeah, that's a
Amazing.
long time.
And what was it? Why do you think there was this opportunity? Is it because the customer sentiment was, not supportive of Bitcoin or cryptocurrency in China? Are they more, risk averse? What was it? What was the reason? Because I do remember early in the day, it was considered a very, high risk venture or opportunity to actually invest in Bitcoin.
Mhm.
I remember early days, it used to be classified on one of those high risk, almost very close or right behind the junk bonds. But now
Mhm.
it's completely different, of course. But yeah.
Yeah, so
Mm.
that's actually a very good question. So when I look back on it, I think there's a few theories, but what I do believe in is China at the time had most of was what I call Bitcoin mining power.
Hmm.
So we call it hash rate.
Yeah.
Uh, so I think China at one stage even had about 85% of the world's hash rate,
Hmm.
and until when the government started to drive out the miners.
Yes.
Yeah, back then a lot of the mining was happening in China, and then a lot of the mining was happening in a few selected provinces in China,
Yeah.
like
Hmm.
such as the Sichuan province.
Hmm.
Um, mostly because China had access in those provinces, in those regions, had access to cheaper hydraulic power. So
Yes.
that's what's driving, I guess, the easy and wide accessibility of Bitcoin,
Hmm.
because that's where basically where the production was happening, right?
Yes. Hmm.
So I believe that's the main cause driving the
And you
price
think that,
discrepancy.
well, back to the demand and supply curve, they just had all the Bitcoin and therefore the price was lower because
That's
maybe they
right.
had less buyers.
Yeah.
Yes.
So the miners, not sure how familiar everyone is with the mining mechanism. But in short, Bitcoin miners need to consume electricity.
Yes.
So they got the ongoing electricity bills that they need to cover,
Hmm.
which means they don't have any other options, but they have to sell a portion of their mined Bitcoin. So you have this consistent supply on one hand, and then if the demand locally is not doesn't satisfy that consistent supply, then you look for overseas markets. So that's why I believe back then there was an arbitrage opportunity.
Yes. And then so you got the Bitcoin in China and then transferred it over to Australia.
Yep,
And it's interesting that the miners in China couldn't access the global market directly. You think they'd go direct to the Australian investors or American investors, etc. So interesting.
yeah. Mhm.
And so tell me more. So obviously you got this, and what happened then? Like you had this 15% opportunity. Don't tell me that was your seed capital to set up your business.
That is you're exactly right. Yeah.
Yes.
That is the seed capital to set up the
Yes.
business.
Mm-hmm.
So me and my co-founder. So I obviously come from law finance background. He comes from a computer science background. So we did
Okay.
this together, and then that is. I think you use the term quite brilliantly.
Mhm.
It's seed capital,
Yeah,
right?
it's seed capital, right? Like
Yeah.
that 15% arbitrage, depending on what it was, like that gives you the capital to set up. I always think to be an entrepreneur, you need most businesses, they succeed or fail because people run out of money in the end, run out
That's
of
right.
cash.
Yeah.
As the investors, once you secure that, everything will, no matter what the business idea is, of course, if it's of any substance, you
Mhm.
can run a successful business.
Yeah, and just on that, like me and my co-founder, sometimes we jokingly say that when we were two people,
Mhm.
we were the most profitable. Because if you look at look at the revenue per person, like we were actually very profitable back
Yes.
then.
Yeah.
And then obviously you go through this startup journey where you start hiring more people. I think what I
Mm-hmm.
find is when you say you're at a scale of say less than 10 people, you're
Yeah.
probably not super well optimized just yet because
Mm-hmm.
everyone's doing everything.
Mm-hmm.
But then once you hit the scale I think we're currently just reached about 30 people. And then you start to realize that economy of scale a bit more.
Yes,
Yeah.
that's right. It's so
Mm.
interesting. And look, as you know, most of the Imagine members, they're all business owners, executives, entrepreneurs. And this story resonates so much, even with myself, like starting Imagine Golf. Um, Early in the day, there was me and there was one other person, Jamie. There was two of us. And then there was three of us. There was Alan. And it was a lot easier at the time because you have such a small staff numbers and it's easy to be, profitable. And as you get more and more people, I suppose you go down this curve where
Mhm.
it takes a bit of a time for the revenues to catch up, and then you get the next step change and the next step change
That's right.
and so forth. So take me through a bit of the journey. I'm sure all of the business owners would love to know the early days um, and what led you to the 30 people. So can you tell us a bit more about the journey? Obviously, there was the two of you
Yep.
kicking off,
Yep.
and then how did you go about from there?
Yeah. I would probably call it that we can divide the journey into three phases. So
Hmm.
before 2021, we were just bootstrapping the business based
Yes.
on our early successes. But we just started, I guess, we did a bit of our own arbitrage trading, obviously, and then we decided to uh, uh, use our success to reinvest that into building our own platform.
Hmm.
So Coinstash in its early days first got launched back in 2019.
Yes.
I still remember some of our earliest adopters are some of our family and friends. So they did one of the first few trades
Hmm.
on the platform. Um, I think back then we were about probably less than five people. But the,
So you built the platform obviously with your seed capital,
mhm,
and then launched with the platform. So all bootstrapped, which is very interesting because
yeah,
usually you have some investors come along at some point, especially for these tech ventures.
yeah. So
Mm,
I would say for the first iteration of the platform, we were
yeah.
all entirely bootstrapped.
Hmm.
But when it came 2021, so when crypto had its, I would say it's probably the third bull cycle,
Hmm.
we decided to basically do a round of equity crowdfunding.
Hmm.
And I think we're probably one of the first crypto company to be doing that. So
Yeah.
that was a very unique opportunity in the market. And then
Hmm.
it was very well received.
And
Uh,
what made you seek out the crowdfunding rather than get one or two investors?
yeah.
Just curious to know because obviously I used to work in banking, so I've been on the other side,
Mm.
identifying various funding options or opportunities. So tell me what made you decide that?
Yeah, so we looked at a few options. Obviously, you have your family and friends around, you have your, I guess, high net worth investor around. But we looked at what we actually needed at the time. I think what we need is more users, right?
Hmm.
So it logically occurred to us like, if we want more users, not only do we need the capital, but we also
Why
want to,
didn't people? Yeah.
yeah,
Hmm.
we want to use the crowdfunding campaign almost as a marketing campaign as well.
Because obviously everybody who invested also jumped onto the platform.
That's right.
Yeah,
That's right.
that's such a smart move.
Yeah.
Fantastic. So, and then and how many people did you have in your original investment rounds?
Yeah, so I remember for the first round, so we actually had two rounds of crowdfunding.
Mm-hmm.
The first round happened in 2021. I think we had about 1,300 investors,
Mm-hmm.
and then there's a few hundred who joined in 2022 as well. So yeah, I think at the time we were one of the most successful
Successful. Yeah, that is.
crowdfunding campaigns
Mm-hmm.
based on the amount that was raised.
Yeah, fantastic. That's brilliant. That's a great story. I love to hear these stories. So tell me, Coinstash, tell us a bit more. Obviously, you have a huge variety of currency there on your exchange. But tell us a bit more about Coinstash and what does it do and what do you do?
Yeah, so I think it probably brings me to the current stage of the company. So
Mm.
I think I mentioned the bootstrapping stage, the crowdfunding stage, but the current stage of Coinstash, the way I see it is we are Australia's best crypto investment platform.
Mm-hmm.
So we're quite different to a lot of the other exchanges out there who are probably better suited for people who are trading, especially uh, people who are speculating on a daily basis about the movements of different the prices of
Prices, yeah.
different cryptocurrency.
Mm-hmm.
But the approach that we take is we want to target people who are more serious about their investment journey. So we all know this day and age, a lot of people have already have the exposure in real estate because everyone
Yes.
own their house, and then people have exposure to stock
Investment
market
properties. Mm-hmm.
and then fixed income, right? But we basically look at the what I call the alternative investment category, and then cryptocurrency, in my view, one of the alternative investment asset classes. So we want to build, given my background, we want to build a platform in a way that's very familiar and also friendly to the traditional Australian investors.
Mm-hmm.
So the way we achieve this is by giving them a very clear and easy onboarding experience, and that's just not for themselves, but also for their entities such as a family trust or the
Yeah.
SMSF. And then we obviously give them the widest selection of assets on platform as well. So
Mm-hmm.
we have close to 1,000 different cryptocurrencies on platform, and then we also give them the best in class reporting and audited statements at the end of the year. So those are the things that we try to cover, give a very holistic investment experience.
Look, fantastic. That sounds really good. So you talked a bit about the bootstrapping stage and the crowdfunding stage. And then where are you now? Have you had additional investors after that, or you've just had the two rounds of crowdfunding? Obviously, you said you have 30 people. So tell us a bit more about the, you know, life in Coinstash today.
Yeah, so we're at a stage where we're fortunate enough that obviously in the past 12 months as well, there's ever since Trump got elected,
Yes, that's right.
cryptocurrency is I would say is the flavor of the month again. So like
Hmm.
I said, a lot of people who were not looking at crypto previously, now they're looking at it more seriously, and that's not just our customers on an individual basis. There's a lot of I guess accountants and people who
Yes.
work in the financial services industry who's open to it. But I think at the current stage, we're probably what I call in a scale up stage,
Hmm.
where uh, we have enough profit, we're profitable enough, such that we don't have to rely on external capital, although we are thinking about raising external round should the opportunity present itself. So, so basically, yeah. So we're looking to scale the business from, say, a 30 people business to a 100 people business, and I think in order to do that, we need to, I guess, obviously onboard more users. There's a lot of, I guess, growth initiatives on the business.
That's right. And what is the time frame you're thinking to go from this 30 to 100-person businesses? What is the plan? What is the outlook?
Yeah. So we want to. So I think for a lot of us who don't work in crypto, we don't realize how big the market is, even if just in Australia. So in
I think it's
Mm.
just such in its infancy, isn't it? Even though we feel like there's been all this growth,
yeah,
it's just such an early stage.
it's still early, but the market in Australia is actually already quite sizable. So
Hmm.
I think the cryptocurrency market in Australia is approaching $1 billion market. So we want to capture, say, just about 10% of the market. So that's where we want the business to be in the next 2 to 3 years.
Hmm.
And and once we get there, I think we can support, I guess, the number of people that we spoke about just then. So
Hmm.
yeah, so to me, it's not really just focus on having the number of employees, but we obviously need to have uh, the number of customers on platform. Well,
Customers and
mhm.
so you're talking about trading volumes in there,
That's
a
right.
billion
Yeah.
dollars. Yeah,
Mhm.
that's right. So fabulous. So what is the target in terms of members or customers?
Yeah,
Many.
We want to hit at least 100,000 users. So
Okay.
currently there's about 50,000 users on the platform.
Mm-hmm.
Um,
They're
but
basically looking to double. That should be easy for you to do, Ting.
yeah, we're looking to double it, but there's a caveat, which is we want to attract more more sophisticated investors, like I previously mentioned. So
Mm.
yeah, so I think the way we structure the platform is such that we are quite different to all the other exchanges who has a strong retail focus.
Yeah,
For us, it's probably more towards
like a
the
wholesale
more
investor.
serious, the
Mm.
serious investors. Yeah.
The serious investors.
Mhm.
So tell me a bit more. So how do you market? How do you find these investors?
Yeah, so there's a few strategies that we're currently looking into.
Mm-hmm.
So obviously you can always get new signups through your organic marketing. So your organic marketing is especially in the search engine optimization, so SEO channels, is very important. So that's I guess that's one of the I would call non-negotiables. But outside of that, we also have a pretty sizable sales team. So our sales team actually they're on the ground. They're in Sydney, Melbourne, Brisbane, they're attending all the events, and they want to. What we're trying to build is we want to build channel partners, so people who are like, for example, accounting firms, financial planning firms, SMSF administrators, who can then refer the quality customer to our platform. So it's marketing, sales, but then also I guess having. We're actually also looking at a few sponsorships. Actually, this year we sponsored the Sydney Roosters.
Mm-hmm.
Having that brand visibility out there is very important as well for people to
Yes.
picture us as one of the most trusted brands in Australia.
Absolutely. Because with that volume you're looking at, you do need to get it's all a lot of brand marketing in there, isn't it?
That's
To
right.
create that visibility and create more exposure for your company and what you do.
Yeah, it makes everything else easy. Mhm,
Exactly.
mhm.
I'm a big believer in that because when we kicked off Imagine Golf, I actually started in 2021.
Mhm.
And I thought I was being so brilliant. I was just starting right after COVID was over. And then after 3 or 4 months of business, there was COVID for months.
Right.
So I just thought all I'm going to do is just build brand. So
Yeah.
we were still advertising, we're doing a whole lot of stuff on social media, trying to do as much as possible so
Yeah.
more people would just know what Imagine is and hear about us. I do a lot of activity on LinkedIn and various platforms. For me, I just say, what should you use? All of the above.
Yeah.
So you want to be at events, you want to be in social media, you want to be in, advertising, you want to be on TV, you want to be everywhere.
Yeah. So you did all this, although like the actual golf events wasn't allowed to happen due to COVID.
Exactly. So
Mhm.
what we did is we just created this online competition. So it was you could play anywhere, submit your score, and you go into the draw to win a brand new driver and things like that.
Mhm.
So it was a very exciting competition because people were sitting at home, they had nothing to do. The only thing they could do was play golf.
Yeah.
So they could just go play in their two ball wherever they played, but then they submit their score online and then they get a prize, which would be a box of balls or a driver or something. And we created this partnership with Drummond Golf. So for the first
Mhm.
6 months, I funded everything,
Yeah.
and then after that, we had enough scale that we got a partnership with Drummond, and they gave away these prizes of the golf balls or drivers or whatever. So made it a bit better for me
Yeah.
because also bootstrapped. So I'm giving away all these drivers, but we built this massive database
Yeah.
during the time when people had nothing better to do. They were bored out of their minds, and I think it was like $10 to join this competition, and you could
Mhm.
win a driver.
Okay.
Everybody paid $10 to join this competition.
Yeah.
And then when we started the networking events, we had a big database of people who obviously were already interested, already knew about us and what we did. It was easy to get that exposure. And now I think I'm part of 7 different networking groups, and we sponsor so many um, events, holes, whatever, so many golf events. We sponsor a lot of golf events. And you think, why would you be doing that? You have golf events of your own. But what it does is it creates great exposure in those, groups.
Yeah. I think you guys definitely do a good job in terms of having the visibility out there. And I think
Yeah.
you also do a good job by having a lot of word of mouth referrals. Because we first heard of you guys because other people recommended you guys to us. Then we
Mm,
look you up. We're like, oh, these guys have a
yeah.
good brand and they look to be reputable. So that's why.
That word
Um,
of mouth is because we not the marketing. That's because we give them a great service.
yeah.
That's what I like to think.
Yeah.
But no, really, yeah. You'll see us tomorrow at our event. But you'll
Mm.
once you attend an event, you'll see it's run quite well. We try to connect people as best we can.
Yeah.
In the end of the day, we don't create business. People create it for themselves.
Mhm.
But if you put the right, I always believe, if you put the right people together,
Mhm.
you curate the connections and
Yeah.
connect people, then business happens automatically. I'm a big believer. I love networking, and I'm a big believer that when you arrive at a networking event, you have to be given a name badge so
Yep.
you know who you're connecting with. Because how many times have you been to an event? I've seen you before. Now I'm here. I said hello. I can't remember anything of where you come from.
Yep.
And having the name badge and whatever, and the company name, it really facilitates that recognition. It's
Yep.
easy to say, hello, Ting, how are you doing?
Yep.
And then that just creates conversation. And I'm also a big believer, but that nobody should be allowed to just sit somewhere. They have to be seated.
Yep.
And the reason for the seated is there's some thought gone between. It doesn't matter. You don't get it right every time,
Mhm.
but there's some thought gone into who's sitting next to whom.
Cool.
So if you do it enough times, at least more than 70% of the time, you're going to get it right, and they're going to connect with someone
Yeah.
because you're thinking every time.
Yeah. I like that. It sounds like you put a lot of intention behind everything you do, right?
Exactly.
Yeah.
It's got to be with intent.
Yeah.
Sometimes I go to networking groups. I just walk around the room. I sit down somewhere. I sit with someone next to me. No idea who they are and whether they even have any connection to with what I do.
Mm.
And those means you just like hoping for the luck of the draw. Please, God, give me some connection.
Yeah.
And I hate that. I think there should be some intent.
Yeah. That's
Mm.
something I try to, I guess, internally publicize within my business as well.
Mm.
So I actually give them the three I's. I tell my team, we got to focus on the three I's, which is intuition, intention, and intensity. So
Mhm.
the way I see it is like, because we are not here to give everyone instructions all the time. So one thing
Yes.
I hate the most is I don't like to micromanage.
Mhm.
So I tell people, you got to rely on your intuition, but your intuition comes from experience, right? So you got to learn from what you do. But then the intention element is very important because everything we do needs to be deliberate. Like you said, even when you are smaller things like how you organize events, you got to make sure all the details are there's some careful thought process behind it. And then the last part for me is like we got to be intense because we got a business to run and we got to keep up the momentum. But that's the three things I always
I
tell my
love it. The
team.
three eyes.
Three eyes.
I'm gonna use it in my business.
Yeah.
But we have a lot of intention behind everything, and you'll see the whole team. We have an imagine way of connecting people, and the team are always sitting with the members. And that's the other thing I believe in as well. Like if you're running a networking group or any group, your team needs to be engaging with your clients. It can't be that the clients are over there and your team is over here.
That's right.
Because guess what? They don't hear anything about what's going on.
That's right.
A lot of the times, who you sit next to whom and who you connect is knowledge about what's happening in your life. I need to know, oh, Ting is looking to get some funding, or Ting is looking at this type of customers, or whatever's happening.
Yep.
The more information I have about that, more I know about who I can connect you to.
Yeah. And I think surprisingly, a lot of people don't do that very well. Like a lot
Yeah.
of companies, um, I guess you would see a lot of like very like a lot of big companies, like very reputable brands, and then they would spend a lot of money attending a let's say a conference or like
Mm.
a expo, but then they put a very inexperienced staff at their booths, right? And you see that time and time again.
Yeah.
And if their staff is just chatting amongst themselves and then not talking to a potential prospect, that means like you're wasting your money at the particular expo, right?
Exactly. And people always think, oh, I don't have a day to go there.
Mhm.
I had this person ask me the other day, they said, oh, you go to all your events. Surely you don't go to all your Imagine events. And I go, I go to all of them.
Yeah.
Last year, there was one event that I missed in the whole thing.
Is that right?
And I think it was because we ran about 35, 40 events in Sydney, Melbourne, Brisbane. And we do dinners. Outside of these big golf events, we also do like dinners and catch ups. And I'm at every one of them. There
Yeah.
was one I missed in Brisbane only because I think my daughter was arriving that day and I was a bit unwell and couldn't travel. But it was one of our really smaller events.
Right.
If it was one of the bigger events, I would have gone there. And I always think, what would I be doing in the office? What would I be doing sitting at my desk when all my members are at this event?
Yeah.
That is where I should be. Whatever I have to do at my desk, I do it tomorrow or the
Yeah.
day before or day after or never
Yeah.
or over the weekend. But I'm a big believer that you gotta front up. You gotta be there.
That's right.
That's where you have your finger on the pulse. You don't get it right all the time, but you know exactly what's going on and what's not going on.
Yeah.
And you fix it immediately.
Yeah. I think a lot of, I would say, a lot of the business that I see that I found led
Hmm.
makes a very big difference, like in terms
Yes.
of how the business is traveling.
Hmm.
Because being a founder, your business, obviously your child, right?
Yes.
So you yourself being on the front line, being very visible, is extremely important to motivate the rest of the team. I think, yeah, if you look at Coinstash, we're probably one of the few exchanges that's left that's still founder led. A lot of
Mm.
the other exchanges, their founders have either hired a professional CEO or they've for
Exited
whatever
or yeah.
reasons is not no longer active within the business. But
Mhm.
we always want to be founder led. So I think that
Yes.
makes a difference.
And that is a huge difference, I think. And also, you lead by example. Like, so if you're there, if I'm not there, definitely one of my senior staff are there at
Mm,
every event, even if it's a whole sponsorship at some golf day, and we do many of them.
mhm.
I still send someone senior because that's what you want. You want every interaction to be amazing. And I tell my team as well, I'm a big believer also in the first impression. So when you walk into an event, what that table looks like, what the registration looks like. I spend hours agonizing over that. And I know it sounds so simple, but I tell my team, how many times do you get to make a first impression? Only
Only
once.
once, right?
Yeah, that's the first impression.
Yeah,
Whatever else comes after that, it's a second impression or the third impression. But
yeah,
that first impression is finished, like it's over.
yeah,
And so it's really important to create that situation where you have your first impression.
yeah,
Really good. And I like what you said about your three eyes. It's amazing.
yeah.
I'm gonna definitely give this clip to all of my team and get them to listen to it. That's awesome. So Ting, look, we've talked a lot about Coinstash and where you're headed. Let's talk a little bit about more about Ting the person. So
Mhm.
tell me a bit more. Obviously, you come from China.
Yeah,
Is your family here, or are they still back in China? Do you have siblings?
yeah. Most of I guess my most immediate family is in Australia. So they were being here, I guess, in 2003. So
Hmm.
mom and dad are here. I still have some, I guess, relatives in China. So my
Hmm.
cousins and uh, my grandparents, they're still in China.
Hmm.
So I do try to go back every now and then. But just given how busy life has been, I haven't been. I don't think I've been back in the past 2 or 3 years now. So yeah,
Okay.
time really flies. But I'm always every time I'm back, I'm always very impressed by I guess how much China has progressed, right?
Hmm.
So I guess we all care a lot about it, but from the I haven't personally experienced like the self driving cars yet. So I think this time when I'm back, I want to experience that. But with all the mobile wallets, digital payments, and all that, I think China kind of did a leapfrog ahead of everyone else, and then we're very much in the digital now.
Absolutely. That's
Yeah.
amazing. And even um, India, every time I go back, I think when you go back after a bit of time, you see the step change.
Mhm.
When you're living there, sometimes you don't realize how much has changed.
Yeah.
But when you come back, I go, oh my God, like it looks amazing.
Yeah.
And India's quite, there's a lot of technology there as well. Not probably at the same levels as China, but similar. The India and China have been growing rapidly over the last decade. So it's really
Yeah.
interesting
Yeah.
when you go back to see that.
Yeah.
Ting, you're not a golfer. You play tennis.
Mhm.
Tell us a bit more about your tennis. Are
Yeah.
you going to become a golfer very soon? I hope.
Yeah. I hope after tomorrow I'll become a golfer. But
Absolutely. We'll make sure of that.
yeah. But the way I see it is I started playing tennis I think back in 2008. So but back
Mm.
back at uni. But I used to play quite religiously. So I used to play like I don't know, nearly every day, and then I was quite serious about the training. But I think as you as you get older, life starts to take over. You don't have as much time to play tennis.
Exactly.
Yeah,
And most tennis players, they make great golfers because they've got a hand-eye coordination. And the good news is the ball doesn't move.
yeah,
At least tennis, you got to run around the court. No, it's stationary. So
that's
it's a
right.
lot easier to hit it. But also, I find that tennis is one of those sports, as you grow older, you end up playing golf.
That's
You
right.
can't run around anymore, so you start playing golf.
Yeah,
So you'll
yeah.
love it.
I was about to say tennis is a lifelong sport.
Mm.
However, you kind of peak at say when you're 30, right?
Yes,
But
exactly.
golf, I don't know, but maybe
Golf is
golf.
definitely the lifelong sport. You play it, you can play it in your 80s and 90s and things like that.
That's right. And one thing about I actually played golf probably 2 or 3 times.
Hmm.
But when I do play golf, I actually play left-handed, although I'm right-handed.
Oh,
And the
interesting.
reason
There are
for
a few people like that. Tell me the reason.
yeah, and the reason for that is I in tennis I like to play. I hit it pretty well double-handed backhand, but I
Mm.
think that it's kind of similar to the swinging motion of a golf club. So that's why I prefer. I feel more comfortable doing
Okay.
a left-handed
Doing the
golf
left-handed
swing.
golf clubs.
Yeah, but maybe after the clinics tomorrow, maybe the coach will tell me otherwise.
Yes, no, not at all.
Yeah,
Because we've got a couple of very good PGA pros, and
yeah,
they're very good at giving you some great advice. Both Alan and Ben are brilliant, so
yeah,
you'll be in good hands tomorrow. But Ting, also tell me, look, obviously our members are all business owners, executives, wholesale investors, large businesses in our community. And everybody's always interested in investing in some alternate investments or getting into this world of cryptocurrency if they're not already in there. What would be your tips or any advice, or how can they get started on this journey? Or people who are in there, what can they look out for?
yeah. I guess I probably got a caveat by saying this is not financial
Oh,
advice, but
absolutely.
yeah, but what I do believe in is the a wise man once told me that the only incorrect allocation to Bitcoin is zero.
Mm-hmm.
So so basically, you should consider some at least some exposure
Mm-hmm.
to Bitcoin as a class, because the obvious narrative behind Bitcoin is gold but better. It's
Mm.
gold but digital. It's more transferable. You can prove very clearly there's a very limited supply of Bitcoin, and then there's a whole wide range of reasons why Bitcoin, in many ways, is more superior to gold. So if you do think that there's a chance that narrative plays out, then I think there's still some, I guess, price potential for Bitcoin. Um, so Bitcoin, in my eye, is this unique category, and there's simply no competition
Mm-hmm.
in the digital space for Bitcoin.
Yeah.
Having said that, there's a lot of, I guess, cryptocurrencies that's kind of in the middle bucket. Uh, and these cryptocurrencies are probably heard of them like XRP, Ripple,
Yeah.
Chainlink,
Mm-hmm.
Solana, Cardano, to name a few. There's a lot of these type of cryptocurrencies that have a business model behind them.
Yeah.
So I guess in a way, their success is tied up to the success of their business model.
Mm-hmm.
So whether the business model is a layer one protocol, or the business model is the success of an exchange, uh, the business is connected to the value of the token. Having said that, I think we probably should invest in those with caution,
Mm.
simply because if you look at the valuations of what's available on the stock market versus if you do the traditional valuation when it comes to profitability versus the token price versus the market cap, I think there's probably still a lot of I guess speculation in the
Mm.
market, to put it nicely. And there's a third bucket, which is what we call meme coins, right? So we probably heard President
Yes,
Trump,
Trump has got his own meme coin. Absolutely.
yeah, and
Mm-hmm.
also his wife. Yeah, they all
Wife.
got
Yeah.
they all got
Mm-hmm.
their meme coin. So meme coin to me is it's not really a representation of value.
Mm-hmm.
Um, and because of that, I don't think anyone buying into the meme coins are being falsely represented to, right? So it is basically a supply, a pure driver of supply and demand. So
Yes.
if a meme has the hype behind it, price will go up. If it doesn't, then price will go down. But people go into this third category
Already know that. Yeah, it's high risk, and
and high
they know
reward.
why they're doing it. Nobody's expecting it to be. Yeah,
That's right. That's right.
stable returns.
Yeah. So I think people in the meme category knows what they're doing. People who are buying Bitcoin, I cannot argue against that.
They can't go wrong. So it's just the middle category.
The middle category, you gotta tread a bit carefully. Yeah.
Tread carefully and get some real financial advice for your own, because that's
Mm.
the whole thing, right?
Yeah.
There's a lot. I do think that with Bitcoin, obviously it's a great investment and it keeps going up, but in the middle there's some opportunities for, um, like some arbitrage opportunities to get
Yeah.
it right.
That's right.
I
That's right.
suppose that's where the
Yeah.
um, trading intelligence comes in.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I think there's some analysis that's been done to say that over the past 18 months, only a very small percentage of tokens that outperform the Bitcoin.
Mm.
So I guess what that implies is if you are trading in the middle category, you got to do your research. So do
Yeah,
your
you
own
better know what
research.
you're doing there.
Yeah, and be very selective. Yeah.
That's right.
Mhm.
And then, of course, if you don't know much, just go Bitcoin. That seems like a no-brainer.
Yeah.
But yeah,
Yeah. I think
because of
that's
that
what
whole.
that's what people start their crypto
I
journey
think
with.
yeah, exactly, and that's the whole scarcity thing, right? Like there's a limited supply, so therefore it's always going to go up. Even though there's fluctuations, overall it trends in the correct direction.
Yeah. I think one
Yeah.
thing to note is just that I think the whole cryptocurrency space is still very much tied with the macroeconomics.
Hmm.
So we've seen how obviously recently uh, the market hasn't been very great in recent
Yeah.
times, given all the tariffs that's been going on, and we've seen that had a similar impact on the whole cryptocurrency market. But having said that, I think in the future there is I guess speculation around the U.S. The Fed might cut interest rates.
Hmm.
So if that happens, that might inject additional liquidity into the market, and then
And therefore
therefore
the prices will go up. Yeah.
yeah, therefore causing more liquidity flowing into cryptocurrency market.
Hmm.
So I think in this day and age, I would say it would be naive to assume cryptocurrency is its own unique asset class that's not affected, but it's not insulated from the rest of the capital market. It's all very connected now.
Yeah, it's all very connected, but obviously, it's just another asset class like every other asset class, and based on your risk reward, matrix, you decide where you want to invest your money.
That's right.
That's really good.
Mhm.
So, and I think the outlook is looking. I always think, being a banker at heart, I always think when the market's down, that's a great time to buy.
Yeah,
because it's headed up in the correct direction. The
yeah,
last thing you want to do is buy in the top
yeah.
at the peak. So therefore, it's a good time maybe for Bitcoin
Yeah, and
if you don't have some.
I also believe there's no shortage of money waiting on the sidelines, right? You look
Mm,
at Warren Buffett, how much cash does he
yeah.
have? Record cash in Berkshire Hathaway now.
Hmm.
So I think there's a lot of cash on the sidelines,
Hmm.
just waiting for the right opportunities. Yeah,
Absolutely. So the
mm.
future does look very bright, thing,
I
isn't
would
it?
like to hope.
Yeah, absolutely, absolutely.
Yeah,
It is. Look, Ting, I just want to say, so good chatting to you, hearing more about the Coinstash journey. I loved your early days. Love that, where you're headed. That is fantastic as well. And I wish you the very best for the future. Look forward to having you more involved in Imagine and definitely taking up some golf soon. So
yeah,
thank you for, being here today and sharing your insights.
yeah. No worries. Thanks for having me, and I look forward to tomorrow's event.
Fabulous.